Samsung are very busy at the moment. We've got news on the Note 20 series phones and the Galaxy Fold, lots of leaks, some iPhone news as well. But we start with Samsung and the Note 20. According to a new report that definitely has caught some attention today from Korea, Samsung could be using a new Exynos chipset in the Galaxy Note 20 phones. So ditching the Exynos 990 that they're currently using and using something called, this report calls it anyway, the Exynos 992. This is obviously a slightly better chipset, but it's not just the 990 with some overclocking. It's actually a new chipset on a new process. So the Exynos and Snapdragon chipsets currently are manufactured on a 7nm node, and this 992 chipset apparently is done on a 6nm node, 6 being better than 7. This means it'll get better efficiency overall, should get better battery life and higher top end power as well. So just improvements all around and a better chipset. Also, according to the report, the difference in performance between the Snapdragon 865, which will be used in Snapdragon markets, and this new Exynos 992, as they're calling it, should be roughly the same. Maybe the 992 may be beating the Snapdragon by a couple of percentage points. And that's really big because currently the 990 is about 20% behind the Snapdragon chipsets. And that's a big gulf. That's a big difference. And so bringing the 992 up in line with the Snapdragon chipsets is a really big deal. I know a lot of people saying they held off from buying Samsung phones or aren't buying Samsung phones until they get the Exynos chipsets up to the level of Snapdragon chipsets. And this may be happening in the Note 20 series. There were also rumors and leaks before about a benchmark result showing a Note 20 phone with a Snapdragon 865 Plus. That is a new chipset, an overclocked version of the current 865. But now we know that actually the 865 Plus may have been scrapped this year, or at least delayed or pushed back because of the market conditions right now. So this gives Samsung a huge opportunity to basically bring a new chipset in and catch up to the competition. If Snapdragon aren't improving their chipset in the second half, Samsung can, and this is a big deal for Samsung, and they might actually catch up to Snapdragon. There are lots of questions still though. It remains to be seen if Samsung can get this new chipset out in time for the Note 20 series, because they're going to go into production pretty soon. Also, this new chipset may be for other customers and maybe not for Samsung phones. Also, we've never heard of this chipset before, and chipsets usually take an incredibly long time to manufacture, and we've not heard any rumors about it as yet. It is possible that the chipset is coming, but it's also very possible that they don't put it into the Note 20 series because that series of phones will just come too early and it might be too expensive. Many reasons. So we'll have to watch this space about a possible Exynos 992 coming. The performance of it looks very promising, may not go into the Note 20 series. I think a lot of people hope it will though, because that will definitely change some decisions on what phone to buy. Lots and lots of information about the Galaxy Fold 2 coming from a more and more renowned Twitter analyst or supply chain analyst and leaker of Galaxy Fold information. So the pricing and the specs. Firstly, when it comes to the possible price of the Galaxy Fold 2, it's still expensive and it's going to sting. But apparently the price actually compared to the Galaxy Fold 1 is lower, which is definitely a good thing. The original Galaxy Fold came at around $1,900 depending on which one you got. But this new Galaxy Fold, according to this leaker, will come at a price of $1,800. That is still ridiculously expensive for a phone, but it's actually, if you think about it, a really better deal than the original Galaxy Fold. The Galaxy Fold 2 is supposed to come with a ton of hardware upgrades. The internal screen getting bigger, a smaller screen to body ratio. Also, the camera being changed from a big cutout that gets in the way to a much smaller hole punch. This is all more expensive stuff. Upgrades to the design and the hinge, the outer screen getting much bigger as well. The possible addition of 120Hz refresh rate displays. This is all apparently coming on the Galaxy Fold 2. Not to mention the camera improvements as well. It's supposed to be getting the camera from the S20 Plus. That's a really good camera system, a new camera system, completely new for the Galaxy Fold as well. So there are a ton of upgrades coming to this device that should make it more expensive at least the same as the Galaxy Fold, but apparently, according to this leak, actually coming a little bit cheaper. Moving on to Apple news, and another report from the Wall Street Journal tells us something that we should all know by now because it has been said time and time again by every other publication. The iPhone 12 series will face delays this year, but it's not that simple. Essentially, according to the report, and this really is the same as other reports, the launch will happen at around about the same time. There are some versions of the iPhone 12 series that will come as normal, but the more expensive versions, or the versions that have the biggest upgrades and the most different components, will face delays. And the Wall Street Journal says maybe up to a month or so, maybe into October. So everything will be launched together, but those phones will be delayed a little bit until October. And that is the same as we've heard from a lot of different publications. So we can assume that this is pretty accurate now. A weird one though about the iPhone 12 series that came out today from Economic Daily, which is I think a Chinese publication, is that there may be a iPhone 12 model with an underscreen fingerprint sensor. And this comes from a lot of rumors of what's going on in the supply chain right now. So there are lots of rumors that BOE, which is a Chinese factory that makes OLED displays, is starting to manufacture in good enough quality and high enough amount that they may be able to supply the big boys, even supply Samsung with panels, and also Apple as well for their iPhones. Also, at the same time, there is news on the Android side that Qualcomm are actually working with BOE in order to make OLED panels with Qualcomm's new fingerprint sensing technology. Qualcomm is the one that makes the ultrasonic fingerprint sensors. Samsung currently use it in their flagship phones. And Qualcomm are going to be working with BOE to bring their new fingerprint technology into OLED displays. It is a bigger sensor. You can also use 2 fingerprints at once. Still an ultrasonic sensor. But BOE OLED panels with Qualcomm's fingerprint sensing technology should be coming this year, but I don't think it's coming to Apple phones. This will be coming to a lot of Android phones in the second half of the year. Do you want an underscreen fingerprint sensor on an iPhone? Of course, absolutely. That would just be the perfect dual unlocking system, Face ID, really good, secure 3D Face ID, and a fingerprint sensor on the phone. It just makes a lot of sense. However, every other analyst, especially really well-respected analysts like Mark Gurman and Ming-Chi Kuo, have not mentioned anything about a fingerprint sensor on the screen for this year's iPhones. And even Mark Gurman has come out and said that he thinks that this is just not happening this year whatsoever. And I tend to side with him and his information. That's it for your news today. Subscribe to the other channel for more as well, and I'll see you next time.